Hey everybody, thanks for stopping in. I appreciate that. I'm out here working on the Green Gangster. Well, I'm working on the hood that's going on the Green Gangster. I was outside yesterday and I had this hood up on some little horses there. That made it a lot easier. But it's raining outside, and I like doing that outside because it was very ventilated. I didn't have to worry about all the dust. And you know, I noticed guys, the first thing they do when they do body work, they'll have a mess laying on the hood where they're doing filler or grinding, and the first thing they do is pick up the old air hose and blow that stuff all in the air. I had a friend that did that all the time, and he would tell me, yeah, you don't want to breathe this stuff in. It's bad. Working with fiberglass and body filler, you always want to make sure you wear a mask or a respirator and, you know, the whole 9 yards. And then he's sitting there getting done with the putty work and blowing the stuff in the air. I don't understand that. I don't get it. And it's not just him that was in the garage. It'd be 2 or 3 other guys hanging out there in some cases. So what do? Is this, guys. This is something I do right here. When I have a mess where I sand or I get stuff all over the place here, all the body filler dust, I just take a rag and I wipe it down. And then what do? I smack the rag all around in the air and clean the rag off. No, I'm only kidding, guys. You don't do it that way. You just take it. You could even use something to wet this with too, if you wanted to, guys. That's just my little thing. I just watched a guy on YouTube do body work, and he was making fun of people. Hello. He was making fun of a guy that had done a repair. So you don't know the circumstances that guy did that repair, because he said it was very unprofessional. That could have been a buddy done that. It could have been somebody helping another guy out that didn't maybe make a dime off of that because he didn't prep the surface right. So he's talking about prepping the surface right on his professional bodywork video. And what's he do? He leaves all the body dust where he just ground with 36 grit paper, and then he doesn't even wipe it off. He has the body dust in there, and he puts the filler right over top of that. And I'm like, this guy's telling people how to do this right, and he's not even wiping off the body dust, and he's putting putty over top of that, and yet he's teaching us how to do that correct. And he was cursing the whole time on that video. Guys, you have to have a little bit of common sense. Don't, you have kids that watch this stuff. I'm no saint, but don't use profanity if you can help it. I know we're all guys, but that's something we have to think about. You might have a young kid watching, trying to learn how to do body work, and you gotta remember, a parent could walk in a room and hear somebody cursing like that, and the kid be innocent. And like, what are you watching there? What do you got on there? There's other things to keep in mind when we're doing these segments. I'm not perfect, and I don't pretend to be, but I hope I don't ever do that. And that's one thing we try to do better at. Anyway, every other word was he was screaming and trying to be funny, but leave the F-bomb out of it. I could scream and try to be funny too. You don't have to curse in the process. People want to watch for a reason to learn, not to be joking around in most cases. It's good to keep stuff light. You guys know I do it too, but I try to be at least respectful. So anyway, that's just my little advice on that. But I'm going to show you guys something. Hang on here. This hood, now as you guys remember, it was all ripped out here. And this is where the old fasteners were. And it ripped the hood right out. And this is one coat on here so far. And this is not body filler. I'm fixing this hood the easy way. And I'm going to show you guys what I do, how I do this. Yes, I have fiberglass. Yes, I have everything I need to do this right. And this is what I use, guys. JB Weld. Hang on, guys. I'm trying to put my glasses on here so I can show you. This is just a steel stick, and they have one for plastic, but this does everything. And what I did here, I reinforced the hood underneath with a strip of aluminum, and I use liquid nails for that. And then what I'll do, I'll go over top of that with some fiberglass and make it even more secure. The reason I did that is because two reasons. The strip I used also had some grooves in it, so that helps this grab onto the backing and to keep this where it won't pull through and pop out, basically, because you need something for the epoxy to set into. So that was good. The aluminum I got already had grooves cut in it, so that helps with that. So then, when you put the fasteners on, no matter what kind you use, if you use pins or the ones that you push down on that are spring-loaded, depending on how much pressure you have on that hood, you can set them as far as tension goes, how much pressure you want. But most of the time, that fastener will put a low spot in the glass on a fiberglass hood. And you'll see the hood that will have low spots on everywhere there's a fastener in a lot of cases. But so what I did, I reinforced the hood with a piece of stripping about yay wide here, all the way up. And this is going to help that from doing that. Now, will it help if the hood ever decides to fly off, air gets under it? Well, it would be a lot harder for that to rip through now, because I have that with liquid nails glued to the hood here. So that would be a lot harder for that to rip out now. And because it's going to have to come through metal to do it. So instead of just ripping the glass out, which is pretty easy to do. You guys have probably seen where glass is broke or come glued on something in your lifetime. That's going to help this. So that's where I'm at with that. So another thing I'm doing, the fiberglass was all, the gel coat and everything was all cracked up. You can still see in some spots here. I have to DA this down more. And so far I've used, I believe, a 180 grit on that. And then once I get it down to where I think it's pretty good with the body work and everything, I'll move up to a 320, something like that, and on up and on up the more I do as far as primer and stuff. I'll be showing you guys that as I go. But one thing I do want to tell you guys, if anybody's ever, well, I'll put it to you this way. If somebody has never done fiberglass work before, and you have a hood and you're trying to repair it yourself, you don't want to go back and forth and bear down on your seams, because it doesn't take much to put a low spot in fiberglass. And even on metal, if you keep working on a seam, you're going to see that when you paint it. And another thing you don't want to do, if you're doing it by hand, you want to use a block or a sponge, because what happens, you have tendency, most people do, they'll put their fingers like this, and you'll wind up sanding, and you'll see finger marks, and so you in the paint or body work. So you always want to use your hand flat if you do it by hand, but it's best to use like a block and put the paper on a block of wood or a sponge. Usually a sponge is good for when you're painting something. Like if I was just doing this fender here and fixing that, then you'd use like a sponge on that. But using putty, and when you first start out, it's not that critical because you're just roughing the surface anyway. But once you start getting down to a finer surface where you're going to be ready for primer and paint, well, that's when you got to be careful not to make any mistakes like that. And another mistake I've seen people make is when they use a tack rag, and that's to take off little residue when you're ready to paint the car. I seen a guy use a tack rag, and he bared down on that, and it looked just like when they painted that car, the car looked like they took their hand through it. And the paints are different today than what they were back when I did this, back in, well, the 80s, I guess it would be. Early 80s and 90s somewhat, but most of the time I did body work professionally, it was in the 80s. So things have changed with materials and stuff. But I guess if I show you guys this, I did do another segment and show you the underneath of the hood yesterday when I was doing it outside. But once again, guys, I get where I don't think right, and I was doing more spitting and sputtering than I was making a point. So that's why I didn't bother posting that. But I will be flipping the hood back over outside again, and if we get some decent weather, and I'll show you what I did, because in here it's a little tight, and I really don't want to do this on the car, but I have no choice because there's nowhere to put my little sawhorses up in here. So anyway, guys, I'm going to cut this off because, as you can see, I have a lot to do, and a hood doesn't seem like it's a lot of work, but it really is when you're trying to fix all the problems this has. I still have to fix the spot here, and I am going to fix this with fiberglass underneath, and I got to grind this out right here, because if you just try to make that fit tight, it won't look right. So I'm going to cut this back and actually clamp this and or tape it to hold it right here, and then underneath I'll fiberglass it, and then we'll be working that area. But outside of that, I have it pretty well in shape. Now the paint was all chipped up here, and it cracked all this out, and this is actually JB Weld here too, because I don't feel like having a low spot here and then stripping the whole hood back down. So this is an easy fix, it's a fast fix. It's how I'm doing it. It's not the correct way to do it, that's for sure, but this is how I'm doing it for right now, guys. So once you make a low spot and start cutting into the paint, then it has to go all the way down, gel coat has to come off and everything, and I don't want to try to get this all the way down to that surface like that. I'm just trying to doctor it up, make it look presentable, and that hopefully will be okay. I've gotten away with some of these kind of tricks before, so I'm hoping I'll get away with it this time. But I will say this, if I do this the way that I'm doing it right now and it doesn't look how I want it to look, then I will be, well, either sorry I did it that way or redoing it. But here's another thing I want to make a point about is this. This hood belonged to a friend, and this is sentimental to us, Carlos Sabrino, that had the car wrecked. And this has taken a lot of time. But if you were to hire this done, if I wasn't doing this hood myself, for what it would cost to have this hood repaired, you could buy another hood. Probably depending on the body shop you went to, it'd probably be about half the price of what they would want to fix this thing. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So you might say, well, Terry, why are you doing all that work to that hood? Well, I'm actually happy that I'm fixing this hood, guys, and it's a big deal to me and my son to have this hood come off Carlos's car. That's how we look at it, and it's more of a sentimental thing to us. So anyway, with that, guys, I guess I explained that a little bit and give you a little of my thought process behind this. And guys, there's a lot of different ways to do body work, the right way, the wrong way, and I'm just doing it my way. So it might be kind of in between. Some guys might say, well, that fix is okay, and other people might say, that's not how you do that. And then, but this is just how I'm doing it. And at least it's getting done. So that's what I'm trying to do, guys. So with that, I'm going to get back to work here, and thank you guys for checking me out and having the interest in this car and what I'm doing here. So with that, I'm going to say God bless you and have a good day, guys. I appreciate you. Take care.